guess who's back? Back to back to back on that ass. If you didn't check out Whiskey Sick Podcast is back. I just did I didn't realize it was almost an hour long. I just broke down UFC Noche. So if you want to go check that out, I'm trying to keep the fight talk separate from the politics talk. For people who don't like to mix, and get into all that stuff. I get it. It's all very depressing that's going on right now. It's very bleak. The outlook on for our country and what we're leaving behind for our children is not good. I think, for the first time we're in a position, I'm just get right into it. I think first time we're in a position, in maybe for sure all of U.S. history, first time ever that we're going to leave behind a shittier world for our children than was left for us by our predecessors, by our fathers and grandfathers. Each generation has provided a better world for their offspring to inherit. Except for us, we're not going to be doing that. We're going to be passing on a very dark age, a very dark time. I don't even know where to get started. I mean, it's all this political divide. I'll go into my awakening. I believe there's a lot of. I think we're coming to a time right now where these last two presidencies have really, this one right now and the previous Biden administration is really red pilling a lot of people. The ultimate red pill was the COVID hoax. We know so much about that shit. We don't have to go into it. If you don't know, then I don't know what to tell you. The world is filled with people who still didn't learn a single damn thing from COVID. And once you realize that, in real time that they could lie to you on such a grand scale, it should cause you to question other things. And what else have they lied to us about? And in real time here on this podcast, I was like everybody else when COVID started. I was washing my groceries. I was wiping them down, using the hand sanitizer and shit, wearing the mask, rolling like this around people, like, you know what I mean? Thinking like a t-shirt, a fucking t-shirt is going to stop a virus from getting through, buying into it all. But it was, it was like early summer of 2020 when I started figuring it out. I started getting, I remember the CDC released some information about, I had to admit that they were cooking the books on the number of COVID cases, and that they were considering everything. If you went into a doctor's office for a broken arm and you tested positive for COVID, they were calling you hospitalized for COVID, even though you didn't even go there for that. Imagine if they swabbed every single person that walked into a hospital for, the flu or something. Everybody. If they swabbed everybody for the flu right now, it would look like a fucking epidemic, like a pandemic, right? So they had to admit that they were cooking the books, that they were the deaths. They were considering people who died in car accidents. This was literally admitted to on TV by one of the directors. A black woman, I believe, who went on TV and talked about how, yes, she confirmed the fact that if you died in a car accident and tested positive for COVID, they marked you down as a COVID death. So when these things started coming out, I started finding these doctors. This is right around the time I got on Twitter. And Twitter is far from a bastion of free speech. Less fuck what you think. It's not. But it was more so, and it really helped people get past COVID. I mean, without Elon taking over, I'm not an Elon fan. Don't get it twisted, like Dion's toes. Don't get it fucked up like Dion's toes, those Pfizer toes. I ain't no fucking Elon, cuck. But he did bring a level of, we were allowed to talk about COVID, which we weren't allowed to do before. You were allowed to talk about, certain things that you weren't allowed to talk about. Can't talk about Israel too freely, can you? Can't talk about free Palestine without getting, demonetized, censored, kicked off and shit like that. But they allowed us to talk about COVID, and that's what kind of got the ball rolling, is when Elon took over Twitter, or X, whatever you want to call it, and you started being able to see all this information start to get passed around, and these videos and these doctors finally being heard and all this stuff. But beforehand, around that same time, I started started finding these doctors, that Joe Rogan ended up bringing on to his podcasts, and started one of the major ones was this guy. Let's see, what's going on here? There we go. What's his name? Wow, we could look it up. There's a lot of doctors on YouTube that I started watching, and I can't think of that old guy's name. What is his? Oh, I got it right here. I'm gonna try to look up his name right here. I got it right here because I started watching him, and early on, this guy, what got me about him, what I knew he was real, is because he started out as a vaccine, telling his people to go get the vaccine. He was a supporter of the vaccine, and slowly. As he started to do his show and he started to look at Pfizer's own documents, and he started to look at the actual stats and stuff, he started realizing that it was all Dr. Campbell, Dr. John Campbell. There it is, Dr. John Campbell. I found his channel early on, and I just watched him go from this transformation to coming full circle, complete 180, saying these things are killing people, right? So when you think about this last administration, when I was talking about, it red pilled a lot of people. Not enough, but there was a lot of, blue no matter who people who woke up and saw that this whole thing was just a lie. Their whole administration was a lie. They perpetuated the exact same things that the previous and the previous and the previous. And a big one at the end was the Holocaust that we have, the genocide, the false flag of October 7th. Where you had Apache helicopters, the Hannibal directive for Israel in full effect, Apache helicopters firebombing festival goers, released a video. Israel released a video of this almost in real time, saying, yeah, we got confused in the mayhem and everything when we were shooting our own people. They firebombed, they had fired out hundreds of cars, and they buried these cars immediately before anybody could ever see them. They're not letting anybody in there. They're not letting any international reporters or anybody inside Gaza. The only reporting you're getting out of there is the reporters that were already there and that are being murdered, over 215 by now. Probably more, probably pushing 250 by now. But they firebombed their own people. And you find out that, originally it was like 1,700 people, then it was 1,500 people, and then they settled on this number around 1,200 people. And then you find out that almost 800 of those people that were killed were IDF soldiers. Well, you can argue that all the IDF, all the people in Israel are IDF. They want to say that all the Palestinians are Hamas. When in reality, you got to remember that it's all projection. Everything they say is projection. When in reality, they have mandatory service in Israel. So you could literally make an argument that their civilians are not civilians. They're all former or current members of the government. But they had to admit that almost 800 of those people were IDF soldiers. That left about 300 and something civilians that they were said were killed. Which looks like it's probably mostly killed by Israel in those Apache helicopters. If you see the amount of cars that were firebombed, it looked like Hawaii. It looked like the fires in Hawaii. It looked like Palisades in L.A. These cars were burnt to the fucking ground, and they buried them. So I personally believe that the vast majority, if not fucking almost all of them, I'm sure Hamas killed people. I'm not trying to say they didn't. Well, I'm sure the majority were killed by Israel itself. Why? Because they had to justify. They had to justify what they had already planned to do. There's no way they didn't know that this attack was coming when Egypt told them, the United States told them a month before. So United States, so Hamas, these Fan Mans. You remember Fan Man when he came flying into the boxing arena and shit? They had this fan man. They had these fan mans flying over the wall with these AK-47s or some shit. They can't do that kind of damage. They can't firebomb cars. They don't have a military. They don't have an air force. They don't have a navy. They don't have nukes like Israel stole from us, stole our fucking uranium. They don't have any of that. They don't have any of that. So you start with this lie to justify a genocide. And what did the Biden administration do? They enabled it every step of the way. They armed it. They censored anybody who didn't go along with it. The same thing the Trump administration is doing. But don't ever forget, 15 months of the Democrats murdering children in Israel, in occupied Palestine. What they call Israel is occupied Palestine. What's going on in the West Bank? They can't tell you what's going on in the West Bank because Hamas isn't in the West Bank. Hamas is only in Gaza. So what's their excuse for sniping children like Charlie Kirk? How many children and reporters have been sniped in the neck, a calling card of Israeli snipers targeting children and women and men in the neck? How many have been sniped and assassinated in the West Bank where there's no Hamas? Why do they call the people settlers? That's weird. They literally call them settlers. Do you know that your money, that United States tax dollars goes to $30,000 a year to these settlers to go and take over Palestinian homes and to squat in them, to destroy them and build their own over the top of them? Israel gives them, arms them, and allows them to take these people out of their homes. Imagine somebody walking into your home right now with a gun and removing you forcefully from your fucking house, spitting on you, raping your daughter, raping your wife, while you watch on your knees, and shooting you, IDF soldiers shooting you, walking down the street in the fucking neck. Charlie Kirk's to the tune of 100 a day in Gaza being killed. Fuck the numbers you see on TV. They're in the hundreds of thousands, pushing 500,000 people dead in Gaza alone. 50% children. You're talking around 200 to 250,000 children murdered under Democrats. That's not even continuing what they're doing in Somalia, what they did in Yemen, what they did in Libya. If we had this moment now where we're on Twitter and we're literally seeing this genocide in real time, and we're seeing the actual destruction, we're seeing the bodies being pulled from the rubble with children with their brains missing, their fathers and mothers holding them in their arms, digging them out of having to bury them twice, having to exhume them only to bury them again. And if we had this level of social media during Obama's campaigns of Libya and Yemen, we'd see this exact same thing. Go look at Libya, the richest country in Africa, so rich that they were going to use their gold. Gaddafi was going to use their gold to back a dollar, an United African dollar. Where did that gold go? Go look at Libya now. Do a before and after comparison. Open slave trades. Same in Yemen. Still bombing Yemen. Bombing Iran. You have Israel right now, under Trump, bombed 9 countries since his start of his administration. 7 in the last 2 months. But they'll have you believe that it's the people they're bombing are the terrorists, not the people dropping the bombs. And they'll have you believe that dropping bombs on people and murdering their children, their family, their fathers, their brothers, their sisters will bring peace. The way to bring peace is to bomb people. We bombed them in hopes of peace talks. They just said in Qatar, where they just bombed in hopes of peace talking, because bombing people brings about peace. A setup. The second time under the Trump peace administration, the peace administration sets up a phony ceasefire agreement and asks Hamas. The only reason there's a Hamas office, if you will, in Qatar is because the United States told them to put one there. So they go there to discuss this ceasefire deal and get bombed when they go there. And then the U.S. admits, yeah, we knew about it. So it's a setup, just like they set up Iran just Iran a couple of weeks ago, a couple months ago, while they were having peace negotiations. Bombed them. And then say, we bombed them for peace in hopes of getting peace, while they were literally negotiating peace. It seems like they don't want peace. Why? Because it's not about Hamas. It's about greater Israel. They're expanding Israel. Why's my shit going dark on me? They want greater Israel. They're expanding Israel. They're bombing all the countries around them. Lebanon's next. Egypt, you're fucked too. They're coming for you. They're coming for Jordan. They're coming for all of you. It's the same rhetoric that they use against Putin. Oh, Ukraine is kicking his ass, but at the same time, Putin's gonna take over once he beats Ukraine, which he's not gonna, because we're whooping his ass, which not really, but we're whooping his ass. But if then he's gonna go and take over Poland, he's gonna start taking over all these. It's projection, because that's exactly what Israel's doing. Once they take over the West Bank, once they take over Gaza, they start spreading out. They already took over Syria. We just watched them take over Syria in real time. They put Al-Qaeda in charge. The very people they'll have you believe was behind 9/11, they just put in charge to run Syria after they overthrew the Assad government. Now, I'm not here to fucking sing praises of Assad government. But that was a Mossad and CIA regime that they've been wanting regime change there for years. Tulsi Gabbard used to be against that shit. You have the famous video of Trump saying, we're there for the oil. We have the oil. We're transporting the oil. We have the oil. They were occupying a third of the country. Which ones? The wheat fields and the oil fields. What does the United States get out of it? What does the United States get out? They get a country in the Middle East. They get a proxy country in the Middle East so they can continue to destabilize the region and ensure that they never become economic rivals to them. Iran has the potential. They cannot allow that. They want their oil. They want their minerals. They need continuous destabilization, continuous overthrows of their government, so they can never grow to be economic rivals of the United States. Why? Because the West and the United States together want to run the fucking world. And they can't allow that to happen. And so going back to what we're seeing, what I was talking about with the two-party system, is you're seeing them continue along. There was no hiccups. It just went completely smooth right on to the next people. There's no difference when you vote. They'll keep you arguing about trans shit and fucking immigrants this and all this other shit. Why they agree on stealing your fucking money and sending your kids off to die for their lies. So they continue their forever wars and continue to print money. They don't really actually use your tax money to pay for the fucking wars. What they do is they print the fucking money and then send it over there. And then you pay the ramifications of all the inflation and all this other shit that they did. Just like they did in COVID. Remember the CARES Act? That was under your boy Trump. $500 trillion upward transfer of wealth, the greatest upward transfer of wealth of all time. That's what it was, months after they started this little pandemic. That's what it's all about. It was about transferring wealth from your fucking pockets, stealing from you, and then also seeing if they can go as far as to get you guys on digital IDs. So then they can bring in the digital currencies. That's what it was. They failed. They failed just a little bit, but they got their little test run in. Right? And you get all this immigrant shit, all this other stuff. They're building these prisons with alligators surrounding. Who the fuck do you think those are really for? Huh? You think the only people they're going to send over there are immigrants? You don't think your ass is going to end up in one of those motherfuckers? In 10 years when you're talking about where do you think this country is headed? What do you think? You're never going to say shit? You're never going to stand up for yourself? You're never going to stand up for your country and say enough is enough? Well, guess what happens when you do? You're going to end up in that. You're going to send your ass over to fucking Guantanamo. They're already talking about sending prisoners here over to Guantanamo. They're going to send your ass over here. So they get you going about this, oh, trans swimmers and all this shit. Listen, homies. Yeah, I don't want my daughter playing, basketball against a fucking dude. But guess what? If that happens where I'm at, what we're going to do is we're going to organize here locally. We're going to get together and we're going to march onto that school board or whatever, and we're going to make our voices heard, and we're going to tear that bitch down. That's not a federal problem. That's not something you need the federal government to fucking do for you. They have you believe that every school in the fucking high school in all the world is allowing all these trans people to do all this shit. It's all bullshit. Not saying it doesn't happen. If it happens, organize with your homies and go stop it. You don't need the government to interfere in this shit. But why they got you going back and forth? Why they got you hating these people and hating these people? Always brown people. Ukrainians, white people. Gotta save them. The only white people they don't like are Russians. Have you hating on the Venezuelans or blowing up fisher boats and saying, hey, look, they were trafficking narcotics. They showed you no evidence of that. I know what we do when we have narcotics. We arrest those boats and then we hold them and give them trial. We don't just blow them out of the fucking water. The same thing they're doing everywhere is the same thing they're doing in Venezuela. Trump tried to overthrow his first time around. Now he's trying it again. They have the largest oil deposits in the world. Gold up the ass. What are they mad about, Maduro? He nationalized their oil. What does that mean? They use the proceeds, the government, the funds from the oil that they sell, the revenue from the oil to provide their people with social benefits like free college, like free healthcare. Some countries in Latin America even have stuff like free electricity from the revenue that they generate. So they take that money and they distribute it amongst the people because they're natural resources. Why should a ExxonMobil own a natural resource and then price gouge us to death to sell it back to us? That's what this is. They want BlackRock in Venezuela. They want the Vanguard. They want Vanguard in Venezuela. They want Exxon in Venezuela. Look at Iran. Iran's the only one that's not on their Rockefeller, their Rothschild banking system. Look at all the countries they've been overthrowing since 9/11. They were all the countries that weren't on the Rothschild banking system. The countries they can't control. Maduro isn't the president. Maduro is literally, he got elected. And they've been trying to overthrow him. And then what did the Biden administration have to do after saying that he wasn't the legal president? They had to go and beg him for oil. Go back a couple years. And they had to recognize Maduro as the president. And then go up and say, hey, can we borrow some oil? So that's what... So if you don't see... So my whole point was... The sycophants, the blue cult members, some of them saw the last administration, they got red pilled off of it because they're starting to see that nothing changed. And guess what's happening now for Republicans, for Trumpers? They're starting to see it in real time. And now with all the information, the only thing they can do is try to censor you, try to slow down the spread of actual information. And people are coming to realize this. Now, remember, there's MAGA and there's MEGA. There's Make America Great Again and there's Make Israel Great Again. And I'll say this about the MAGA movement. They've pushed back on Trump more than Democrats ever did. They've questioned Israel. They've started to question Israel since he took over more than the Democrats ever did. So much so, I've watched people... big time right-wing conservative people disown and wake up from the two-party duopoly and disown Trump and what's going on. They're slowly starting to wake up. Epstein files. Lied. Epstein files. Who's on the Epstein file? Why aren't you ever... You're not getting the files, homies. Why? Because they're filled with fucking Zionists. You want the client list? You ain't getting it. It's filled with fucking Zionists. That's why. You ain't ever fucking getting it. They ain't ever telling you. You think for 1 minute they haven't erased and deleted everything on that shit? Of course they did. Because they're all in it. A whole government goes down. And so that was MAGA, true MAGA, a red flag for them. What the hell is going on? So now you're protecting the pedophile. I thought we were like, what happened to all this silent, the trafficking movie that they had come out, the Silence movie. What was that shit last year or 2 years ago? They were supposed to be the party against human trafficking, child raping, against the PDF files. And here they are covering for them. Straight pedo activists is what I call them. They turned into pedo activists. So the people who are still riding with MAGA, or now MAGA, because that's what you're supporting. You're supporting a foreign country if you're still supporting Trump. You are the pedo activists. It is what it is. But we're seeing a great awakening. We're seeing people in the red movement start to move away. They're starting to question what the fuck is going on. I can't say free Palestine. I can't what? You're making it illegal for me to say something? So the only difference between these two parties is bullshit culture war issues that they flood your feed with, they flood your TV waves with. I don't know why it keeps doing that. And that's all they got, is they have to keep you distracted with shit that doesn't fucking matter. And they have to project these, they have to blow these issues up and make you think that these things are happening everywhere and that they're widespread. Trans athletes are widespread. The immigrants, they're killing everybody. Why we literally murder hundreds of thousands of people in Gaza. So that brings you to what you saw a couple days ago with Charlie Kirk, man. An Israel supporter, a genocide denier. He started to question, stuff started coming out recently that he started to question Israel. Not so much as far as he would go and admit that there's a genocide and that there's starving children in Gaza or anything like that. But he started to question his ability to be able to question them, right? He started to question his ability to question the Israeli government, and even pontificated that they would kill him if he did so, because he had mild criticisms. He started having mild criticisms of Israel. He was actually on there, and I remember this. He was actually on there questioning October 7th. See, on the Patrick Bet-David show, they were both asking questions that you're not allowed to ask. Let's see.
I've heard this story. I still have the same gut instinct that I did initially. I find this very hard to believe. I've been to that Gaza border. You cannot go 10 feet without running into a 19-year-old with an AR-15 or an automatic machine gun that's an IDF soldier, right? The whole country is surveilled. And so let me just kind of go through this. We don't talk about Israeli politics very often, and most Americans don't know this. The last 9 months, Israel was on the brink of civil war. It's not an exaggeration. This judicial stuff, there were hundreds of thousands of Israelis taking to the streets because Bibi Netanyahu was basically redefining the Israeli constitution. That's not an exaggeration.
Now
right?
He wants to stay in
the
office.
Judicial branch has too much
He's
power.
got to keep the war going.
There were protests planned this week against Netanyahu, where they anticipated tens of thousands of people to take to the streets. That's all gone, Patrick. Netanyahu now has an emergency government and a mandate to lead. I'm not willing to go so far that saying that Netanyahu knew or there was intelligence here, but I think some questions need to be asked. Was there a stand down order? Was there a stand down order? 6 hours? I don't believe it. Israel's the size of New Jersey. When I took a helicopter ride from Jerusalem to the Gaza border, it's 45 minutes. 6 hours. They're live streaming the killing of Jews. Did somebody in the government say, stand down? That is a legitimate, non-conspiracy question.
That was just like the day after or a couple days before. And then he was on Megyn Kelly. I'm sure you've seen all the things, the video surfacing about him on Megyn Kelly saying that he was afraid that if he ever went against Israel in any way that they would kill him. You know, and he started having some questions. But listen, as far as Charlie goes, listen, I ain't over here. I ain't happy the guy's dead. I ain't celebrating that the guy's dead or anything like that. My only empathy goes to the kids, to his children. These kids are gonna have to grow up, you know, watching their father be assassinated. There's no way they're gonna go their lives without seeing that video over and over and over again, and then they're in this weird situation where they can see the actual death, you know, of their father. And they're young, and you know, my empathy goes to them. I care about all children, all of them, and so that's fucked up. That's fucked up. But as far as Charlie Kirk goes, listen, I ain't gonna shed no fucking tears for him. That ain't gonna fucking happen. A genocide denier who came on here and ran cover for a foreign government and for the current government to continue the death and slaughter, and then deny that they were just killing, deny the genocide of these children. You know, there's this saying going around that I wish for you what you wish for Palestine. And that's it. You know, this guy, you know, there's this, I took some notes on this, so I'll be looking down a little bit, but here's the thing that you got to know about Charlie Kirk. He wasn't taken out because they had to shut him up. They took him out because they had to stoke the flames. You're seeing what was the narrative that started running right away. Left versus right. They started running when you had these right wingers, these Jesse whatever the fuck's on Fox, start talking about it with some right wing, left wing fanatic, right wing. You had the president of the United States on there talking about left radicals and all this shit before they even knew who the shooter is. Now, just today, they started parading this other guy around, this patsy, who they're gonna try to push off, tell you murdered Charlie Kirk, just like the CEO killer Luigi Mangione. They're gonna do that. But at the time, they had nobody. They had already released the people, and they're already talking about, it's left wing. They're already pushing the narrative that they want. His body's, barely even in the ambulance, and they're already telling you what they want. And here's the big thing. How does Netanyahu tweet about this shit before anybody 20 minutes after the event actually takes place? Why does Benjamin Netanyahu need to know in real time that Charlie Kirk, an influencer, was killed and murdered while in the middle of a genocide, while in the middle of bombing 7 countries in the last 2 months, while bombing half the fucking Middle East? Why does somebody close to the scene then the first thing they think of is to, in real time as they're carrying his body out, hey, Benjamin, guess what? Charlie Kirk just died or just got shot or whatever. Well, Benjamin Netanyahu said he died, right away. He knew before he was even pronounced dead that the guy was dead. Why is that critical information that has to literally be relayed to Benjamin Netanyahu in real time as it's happening? Why? How does that happen? And then he's already telling you it's Islamic, it's radical Islamists. Already immediately goes into using Charlie Kirk's death for political reasons. To Islamists. So now that they've paraded this doofy white kid out as their actual killer, who's clearly not a radical Islamist, what is Benjamin Netanyahu going to say now? This guy doesn't look like an Islamist to me. He looks more Jewish to me than he does an Islamist. We know how you guys do. That's the other thing about what's going on in Israel that people don't bring up enough. You have them screaming anti-Semitism at every fucking thing you say, yet they're not Semites. These Ashkenazi Jews are not Semites. They're white people. They're from Turkey. They're from fucking Poland. They're from fucking Ukraine. They're from fucking New York. That's why they don't allow DNA tests. Only under certain circumstances, with when it has to do with the courts or some kind of specific medical reasons, can you get a DNA test there. That's real shit. Because the actual Semites, who they're justifying bombing, and then you say, hey, stop bombing those people, you're anti-Semitic, for actually supporting the only the Semites who have 85, 86% DNA ties to the ancient Hebrews of that land. There's only like 3% of the Jewish people who have ties, actual ties to that land. It ain't the Ashkenazi Jews. It ain't these. So they're screaming anti-Semitism about everything, and they're not even Semites. They're white people. Does Michael Rappaport look like he's Arab? Does he look like he's from the Middle East? Does that little Will and Grace redhead chick look like she's fucking... Does Jerry Seinfeld look like he's Middle Eastern? He's from the fucking Middle East? He's a white guy. These are white guys LARPing as Middle Eastern people in a country they don't even want to fucking live in. So you have to ask yourself, why? How does they immediately go into making this a left versus right issue? Because what they're trying to do is they're trying to rile you up. You know, a lot of talk goes into, you know, they're trying to keep you distracted. That's definitely part of it. That's a huge part of it. They want to keep you distracted. They don't want you seeing what they're doing they're going to start another war again in Iran. They don't want you knowing that they're bombing the living fuck out of Somalia. They don't want you to know that they're starting they just had a color revolution in Nepal, overthrow of a government that's 100% NGO, US NGO, NATO backed. They don't want you to know that they're still letting these pedophiles, these PDF files, run around, including, you know, the White House, running around the White House, giving speeches about Charlie Kirk and shit. They don't want you knowing about it. They don't want you talking about that anymore. They don't want all this Israel talk anymore. Because people are sorry. But it's always backfires on these dumb fucks. Because every time they do some shit like this, wake more and more people up. They're already seeing through it. Nobody with half a brain was buying their bullshit from the beginning. You still got some of these, when you see the people, you know, this is war, this is a civil war, there's no room for political violence, and then they're over there, you know, justifying political violence. These right-wing people, you know, those people are on the wrong track. It's not about left and right. Anybody who's trying to sell you as that they're trying to silence what he was saying and he was his free speech. No, the fuck he wasn't. He supported everything that happened to those Palestinian protesters at the college campuses. He supports every fucking person that gets kicked off Twitter for supporting Israel, for supporting Palestine. Oh, they're trying to keep him. They're trying to silence him. I know. I saw Joe Rogan on there. He was saying the same shit, but he was reacting in real time. So I'm gonna give him a pass. But that's not what this is about. Not trying to silence Charlie Kirk. They're trying to stoke fires. They're trying to build the conditions that will lead to some kind of event that will then justify them taking complete control and ushering in the Palantir surveillance state. That's what they're fucking doing. They want to build public consent for taking complete control. That's what they're doing. They want chaos. They want what's going on in Paris right now. They want that here. Because here, if that kind of shit starts happening, You're already seeing they're weaponizing, they're normalizing using the military to run through your streets and stop crime. There's a reason why they're doing that. They're setting precedents about using the military against its own citizens, which is basically what you have in these major cities with the police. What do you think they're doing? New York State alone, their NYPD has a budget greater than Brazil's military budget. LA too. These are domestic militaries they're building up. So whether you like the term defund the police and all this shit, how about demilitarize the motherfuckers? In the very least. Because what they're doing is they're militarizing them against you. Because guess what's happening? Eventually you're going to have enough of this shit. It's still spiraling. It's just getting worse and worse and worse. And they keep killing your people. And they keep pushing these false narratives. They keep stealing your wealth. They keep taking your jobs with AI and automation. One day, it's all going to come to head. And guess what they're going to do? They're going to be fucking ready for your ass. Because it'll all be their cop city in Atlanta. What do you think that is? Riot police being trained by the IDF. By the IDF. And vice versa. We train them too and they train us. But your military, those dudes out there in their riot gear are being trained by the IDF. To fuck your ass up. If there's a protest and you see them cracking heads, that's a protest. When you see a so-called protest, Bernie and AOC out there and that's a glorified parade. That's why they make you get a permit for your protest. That's so the government can say, okay, we're okay with this one. That's a government-sponsored parade. Real protest, you don't need a fucking permit for it. You go out there and you fucking protest. Nobody gave a fuck about silencing Charlie Kirk. I'm sure plenty of people don't agree with what the fuck he has to say, but he was a pawn used by the global cabal that runs the West, that runs the entire West, that wants to take over the world. That's what he was. He was a pawn. And at some point he became a threat to that global pawn, whether it was his rhetoric about Israel or whatever. And they had to take him out. And so that's what you have with Charlie Kirk. That's what you need to take away about Charlie Kirk, is that this is all designed to push their narrative and to divide you once again. When you started to see a little bit of cohesion between the sides, when we could certain people could come to agreement that we should stop PDF files, and when they were starting to come to a consensus that, hey, something's going on with this Israel shit, and you started having left and right people start coming together, start finding out that, hey, we might not agree on this and that, but this is a bigger topic and we agree on this. And so at a time when they're sitting back watching all this happen, the deep state, if you will, the deep state, the people who actually pull the strings, the billionaire class that runs the world, the corporations that run the world, and the heads of those corporations, they have to disrupt that. They have to get you guys, they have to take the jar of ants and shake them up, and then fucking let you guys go about and start fucking fighting each other. That's what they have to fucking do. And then the false people, that are telling you that it's a left, right, and this is war with the right, and we're gonna have to fight for ourselves and all that. Those are either super dumb motherfuckers, or they're just liars, and they're part of it all to lead you down the wrong path. Everything is meant and designed to lead you back into the two-party system. That's what it's all for. That's what the Charlie Kirks are for. That's what, even the Candace Owens, who's good on Israel and Gaza, but her whole thing is, yay, J.D. Vance. At the end of the day, they're going to push you into the Republican Party. All the people on the left, they're going to push you back to all the Bernie movements and all that. The purpose of that was take all that revolutionary spirit and funnel it back into the Democratic Party. At the end of the day, they don't give a fuck if you vote red or blue. They just need you voting and participating in that sham. That's what they need. Because no matter if it was Kamala or whoever the fuck in office, this was going to happen. The only difference with the Democrats is that they try to hide their shit. They try to make it a little more PC and more friendly, and they try to keep that shit on the DL. Not the Republicans. They're just out in the open and say, we're going to fuck shit up and we're going to go fuck. We're going to name this shit the Department of War. After we ran on peace, we're going to name it the Department of War because we fight wars. Nobody's fighting wars except you. Nobody wants anything to do with you. But you won't leave them the fuck alone, so we got to fucking, they're saying, so we got to go and fucking do something. So they call it, the Department of War. So that's what all this shit is designed to do, man. And the police state, that's what it is. It's all about getting to the police state. Go look around your neighborhood right now. You see everything. Anytime something major closes, we just had a Fry's Electronics. Remember Fry's? You guys remember Fry's? Fry's were huge. Massive building in going down towards Qualcomm Stadium here in San Diego, just north or now it's Snapdragon. My bad, Snapdragon Stadium, just north of that. What are they turning it into? What do they turn everything into? Apartments. They talk about affordable housing. They talk about all this shit. We need to create affordable housing. Why is it always apartments they're building? Why don't they build homes with little white picket fences and a little lot in the front and a little lot in the back? Huh? Why are they only building apartment complexes, and then for like the new one they're just putting up right down the street, 75 units, affordable housing, 29 parking spaces. They're trying to disrupt your freedom of movement, and they want you stacked on top of each other. Why? Because it's easier to surveil your ass and control your ass that way. What do you think the 15-minute city is? It's an open-air prison that's sold to you as some kind of utopia of convenience. That's what it's sold to you as. Oh, it's super convenient. You have everything. You can just walk, and that's freedom. They don't want you realizing that they have you locked in an open air prison. They put a couple cafes over here, a fucking deli over here, a little coffee shop over here, and look, it's fucking great. Go look around. Whenever you see, they're always going to build condominiums. That's what they're going to do. They're not going to build homes. They don't want you having a home, having privacy and having a nuclear family and raising it like a traditional family in past generations. They don't want that. It's easier to keep you all stacked on top of each other under all of our fucking surveillance cameras. That way, if there's ever somebody who gets you, there's a Bugs Life guy who comes out and says, hey, this is kind of fucked up, and people start looking around and say, yeah, let's do something about it. They already got you on lock. All they have to do is hit the button, and all the fucking gates come swinging down on you like the mall when it closes, and you're fucking just locked in there. That's it. Nowhere to fucking go. And then it's too late. And then you got the motherfuckers like me sitting back there, like in the zombie movies where the dude gets bit by the zombie, doesn't want to tell anybody. He's kind of just looking around in the back while everybody's arguing and shit, knowing he's about to eat your motherfucking ass. That's what I'm saying. Sitting here like I was right. Yeah, I've been trying to tell you this shit, but now it's too late. Because when all the little peasants who have been going along with this shit finally realize what's going on, it's too late. It's too late. They're already, setting all this shit up. So, and you put it all together. The thing is what is all this about? It's to protect capitalism. If you want to boil it all down, what's all of this shit down? What all Gaza, all of it is to protect capitalism. They cannot have any alternatives to capitalism existing. You're at end stage capitalism. The end stage, what was it? Was it Vladimir Lenin who said end stage? I can't remember who. End stage capitalism, imperialism is the symptom of end stage capitalism, and that's where you're at. They're coming to a place where they can't possibly extract any more wealth from the people. They can't put them under any more debt. I mean, you have mortgages out the fucking roof, rent out the fucking roof, mortgage rates. You have the medical bills up the ass. They can't possibly put you in the average American in any more debt. They can't really steal any more wealth from them. So they have to move out. They have to expand and find more people that they can do that to. And their trick is to come up with reasons why they have to go do that. And it's usually for your safety. They're drug dealers. They're sending drugs to us. They're cartels. Who created the cartels? Who was in bed with the cartels? The CIA. Go read Gary Webb's book. Dark something. I have it downstairs. Go read Gary Webb's book about Iran-Contra. You ever heard of Freeway Ricky Ross? Where was he getting his drugs from? Cartels. Who was funding those cartels? The CIA. The CIA was in bed with them. They used the cartel drugs to flood Los Angeles. Number one supplier, Danilo something, was the number one supplier of Rick Ross, of Ricky, the real Rick Ross, who started flooding LA with cocaine, which later became freebase and started the crack epidemic. The CIA was taking those funds from the crack sales and was using it to fund the Contras in Nicaragua, which was a rebel group that they wanted to use to overthrow the Sandinistas. Just like ISIS, just like the Taliban, just like Al-Qaeda, just like all those motherfuckers are CIA creations. I don't know how to spell Al-Qaeda. Let's see if we can find this.
A history of kind of moving in and out of Pakistan. I mean, let's remember here, the people we are fighting today, we funded 20 years ago. And we did it because we were locked in this struggle with the Soviet Union. They invaded Afghanistan, and we did not want to see them control Central Asia. And we
want to control Central Asia.
And it was President Reagan in partnership with the Congress, led by Democrats, who said, you know what, sounds like a pretty good idea. Let's deal with the ISI and the Pakistani military, and let's go recruit these mujahideen. And that's great. Let's get some to come from Saudi Arabia and other places, importing their Wahhabi brand of Islam so that we can go beat the Soviet Union. And guess what? They retreated.
And so what happened shortly after that? Al-Qaeda takes over, and what do? What do? They destroy all the poppy fields. All that shit is against Islam. They don't fuck with drugs. They don't fuck with any of that. They destroyed all the poppy fields. Poppy production went down to zero. When the U.S. went in there after 9/11, what happened to the poppy? To the poppy production? Skyrocketed. You had U.S. soldiers coming home talking about how they went on tour and spent tour guarding poppy fields. We're getting killed to guard poppy fields. And the production of heroin and all this has skyrocketed. That's just a byproduct of what they're trying to do there. But she's telling you, we created Al-Qaeda. The CIA created all these with the help of Mossad, with the help of MI6 in England. The British intelligence. Those three entities come together to create destruction all over the world. So the people who create the terrorists that they then use as excuses to go and destroy these other countries, they also were created the cartels who now they use to try to destroy the Latin American countries. Do you get it? And the only way you can find this out is if you go read. You got to read books. I don't know if I got to everything I wanted to talk about. I kind of went off on a lot of tangents, but the end story is that they want to get in this police state, because civil unrest is only going to keep on the rise until eventually something happens. And they don't want like a full-on like revolution type thing going on right now. What they want is something that they can control, some kind of outburst, some kind of citizen rebellion that they can quell real quick and then use as an excuse. And how do they do that? They just start murdering people on each side of the aisle. They just start doing that. You're people, and then they start shaking you, and you go fight this, and you start fighting each other and start thinking that, it's the radical left versus the radical right. No, it has nothing to do with any of that. And the minute you finally break free of that fucking thinking and that peasant mindset, listen, when I call you a peasant, this is like, if you guys don't watch Due Dissidents, go check out Due Dissidents on YouTube. These are the best dudes. Guy Russell Dobler talks about it a lot. He talks about the peasant mind state, and he's 100% right. Being a peasant has nothing to do with your economic worth. You can be rich as fuck and still be a fucking peasant. It's paying fealty to your fucking lord. These people who pay fealty to their fucking government and do the bid, you're doing the bidding of your government. You're a peasant. You're a peasant fucking mind. And whether you know it or not, you're doing the bidding of your fucking government to fuck you over. When you go on here and start screaming about radical left and all this shit, when the body hasn't even cooled off yet, and there still are, and they overplay their hands. These people who are running shit are fucking stupid. They tell on themselves all the time, and they just told on themselves again. Netanyahu just told on himself. He comes out, starts telling you it's Islamists killed him. Now we see it's some fucking white dude they want you to think killed him. It's crazy. Don't fall for it. That's all I can say is don't fall for it. Listen, that's what I got for now. We'll do more of these ticks. I'll have, some more, we can get into more specifics about certain areas and shit. But this is the gist of it. Don't, Charlie Kirk, no, again, nobody's, I'm not happy, I'm not cheering, I'm not celebrating this guy's death. But I ain't crying for it either. You ain't gonna shame me into shedding a fucking tear for Charlie fucking Kirk. A guy who didn't give a goddamn fuck about children in Palestine. Or any fucking where. In Libya, in Yemen, in fucking Venezuela. This is somebody who supports all that shit. So I ain't fucking feeling any sorrow for him. But what it's looking like is he fell victim to the people he cucked for. Who he sold his soul to. And was starting to question. Possibly starting to question the people he sold his soul to. It was too late. They got him. And he was one of those the big thing about him is they can't have that guy going against them. Israel can't have that guy. In the United States is in this, they can't have the mainstream narrative be that they've been committing genocide. They can't allow that. They're literally starving people. They can't use the human shields. Well, you're starving people. What the fuck does that have to do with human shields? They can't use these things anymore. And if they lose control of that narrative, it all goes to shit. Then you start, and where I was going earlier with the COVID, and I started with COVID woke me up. Let's take this whole thing full circle. COVID woke me up, and the logical question became, well, what the fuck else are they lying to me about? I'll spoiler alert the answer to that. Everything. Literally everything. So then I go back to 9/11. I've always known in the back of my mind that was bullshit, but I've never got into the details of it. And once you even find the basic details of it and the videos and watch all the videos they've tried to scrub from the internet, and you realize that these guys in cahoots with Israel murdered 3,500 people on 9/11 to justify going to war. And not only going to war in Afghanistan and Iraq, which two countries that had nothing to do with it. But not only that, but to usher in what was the most important thing probably. The Patriot Act, which they've continue to add on to. They introduced the Patriot Act, start spying on Americans. That's what it was all about. And when you realize that they can do that, they can blow up they can fly 2 planes into it and then blow it up and say, hey, look, those planes blew those buildings up. What won't they do? What can't they lie to you about? When you realize that COVID was a complete sham that they created in a lab, likely in North Carolina, and released there under gain of function research and all this stuff, and then lock you in your home, and then demand that you take their fucking vaccines, their shots, or else you lose your job, your livelihood, your ability to put food on the table for your children and to put a fucking roof over the head. Oh, you're not forcing them. You can just go homeless if you don't want to take it. Remember those bullshit narratives? They're not forcing you. They're not holding you down. They're just saying, hey, you're just not going to be able to pay your bills and your family's going to be out on the curb. Come on, man. And once you realize they can do that, how many thousands of people have been killed from those? maimed from those, paralyzed. Conditions, inflicted with conditions they won't even know about until who knows when, years down the road. Heart conditions that people are walking around with that they don't even know that are ticking time bombs. Clots that are forming that they don't even know are ticking time bombs. And they can do that to you and fuck up your health for the rest of your life. When they can do those two things to you, do you think they won't lie about landing on the fucking moon? You think they won't lie about fucking October 7th? About Venezuela? Immigrants and all these other... You think they won't lie about that? You think they won't lie about killing Charlie fucking Kirk? When they can do that? When you know about the history of Operation Northwoods, when you know that the CIA was, and with the help of Israel again, was probably together, were in on JFK assassinations, when you had the United States, the FBI murdering Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, when you know these things, do you think that what won't they lie about? They'll lie about everything to maintain control. You don't have to censor people for lies. You have to censor them for the truth. Facts, reason, logic destroy lies. It's only when you don't have facts, reason, and logic on your side that you have to censor people. Facts, reason, and logic. They never have those things. So they have to manufacture, they have to straw man, they have to conflate Zionism with Judaism, stuff like that. Conflate Free Palestine, the Palestinian flag, stop bombing children, conflate that with anti-Semitism for people who aren't even Semitic people. They're white people. While bombing, you're literally advocating for the Semitic people in the equation, and they're calling you anti-Semitic. When you see those things, you think they can't lie about shit like the fucking moon? You think they didn't lie about that when you didn't have fucking Twitter? When you had no way to expose their lies? Now they don't. They have to tread lightly now. They get got everywhere because of Instagram, because everybody has phones and cameras everywhere now. The only thing you need to do right now is start questioning everything. They want to send your kids to fucking war and die. The only fucking war I'm interested in is a war against Israel. Or a war against the elite, the global elite, the elite in the United States. We start that war, I'll sign up for that shit. I'll go on some Starship Trooper to do my part. You don't have to draft me for that shit. That's the only war we're fucking interested in. Is taking out the elite ruling class that wants to send our children off to fucking die for their lies. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to create forever wars in the Middle East that they're going to send your kids off to die for. That's what the fuck they want to do. Fuck the blue, fuck the red, fuck all that shit. Most of the people I'm going to assume that are watching this are fucking adults. It's time to act like it. It's no longer feasible to have the worldview of a fucking 6th grader. You got to wake up and break out of your little chains of your blue and red fucking war. Liberals aren't your fucking enemy. Trumpers aren't your fucking enemy. It's the people that control and manipulate their minds that are the fucking enemy. And you're getting it right now. These are all psy-ops. These are all created to manufacture consent for all the fuck shit they're bringing down the pipeline. That's what it is. Seth Gecko, a.k.a. Moody Hank. We'll be back next week. If you like this shit, I don't know if anybody's even going to watch this shit, but if you watch it and you like this shit and you want more talks like this, I don't hold nothing back. I got it for days. I'm going to try to do these more often. I just dropped, if you like just UFC shit, I just dropped the UFC Noche video, so you guys can go do that. I'm going to get the hell out of here, man. I've been talking. I'm parched. My throat's sore. I'm like fucking, I don't know what's going on here, but listen. Free Palestine from the river to the sea. Free Gaza, free Palestine, free the West Bank. Fuck Israel. I'm out.